Hello, welcome to Shamanism, Metaphysics, and Grace. I'm Lauren Hubele here with my favorite astrologer, Jyoti Wind. Jyoti, we're getting into some interesting times, more interesting as they go into this year, it seems. Looking forward to your report for us.
Thank you, Lauren. Glad to be here. Yeah, March has been, I've heard it's been said that it's been a bit of a squeeze. Yeah, just kind of squeezing everybody, kind of into a line or a queue or something, and then the big month is April because
Mhm.
of the Jupiter Uranus conjunction later in the month, but the big in the early part of the month, the big total solar new moon eclipse.
Yeah,
But today, I want to talk about what's still going on in March.
okay.
So, just a nod to the fact that Mercury entered its shadow on March 17th, Sunday, 2 days ago, getting us ready for the next retrograde cycle. I'll talk more about that around April 1st when it goes retrograde. But this is there might be things in the next couple of weeks that we'll want to come back to revisit once Mercury goes retrograde. I'll say that.
Mhm.
But what I really want to look at is the spring equinox, which occurs tonight, mountain time, mountain daylight time. It's 9:06 p.m. And this is the beginning of spring. Yay!
Yes.
So, so when I did the equinox celebration late yesterday afternoon, I mentioned to the people who attended that the last time we had met collectively was Imbolc or Bridget's Day. And at 5 o'clock my time, it was still dark then.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a rekindling of the light. And look how successful everybody had been because when I did it yesterday, it was still sunny out at
Yeah.
5 o'clock, you know?
Yes.
So we have our own jobs and we have our own powers. It's good to kind of remember that in the background. So the spring equinox chart is the chart for the next season, the next quarter of the year.
Okay.
And from an astrological and pagan point of view, this is the new year. This is tonight's New Year's Eve in that sense. So it's the beginning of the next quarter, and it has the sun at 0 degrees Aries. That is the spring equinox, trining the moon in Leo, which gives an ease and a flow and a sense of inspiration. And so, sun and moon both in fire. There's that sense of inspiration and the ability to inspire others, and a real sense of harmony and flow.
Hmm.
However, the moon is opposing Pluto. So it gives a challenge emotionally over this next quarter. How are you maybe giving your emotional power away? How are you standing in it and taking it? And what about your sovereignty? I mean, Leo likes to go in, take charge, and delegate responsibility. And so, how are we doing that well with that opposition to Pluto? That's the challenge there.
So what will Pluto be pushing up with that?
Unresolved emotions,
Oh,
power plays sometimes, challenges, emotional challenges. Um, Also, having you look at where you, generally speaking, where a person gives their power away. And the right use of power, as we know, working with Pluto, is to own it and embrace it and help everyone else step into theirs.
mhm.
So there's a sense of flow here, but there's also some work with that opposition.
Yeah, do you sense this is going to be balanced or will one be more dominant than the other?
Oh, I think it's equal. I think it's equal. I think we'll all experience some of each.
Yeah, I got this picture of kind of the tides in and out, right? A little
Yes,
flow and then work and then flow and work.
yes, yes. Yeah, I
It-
think that's a great analogy. Yeah. And the North Node is in Aries. The North Node in a chart like this is the learning curve of the quarter. The North Node in Aries is with Mercury and Chiron, the healer, all within 3 degrees. So there's a sense of maybe a healing vision, but it's going to take a little risk taking because the South Node is in Libra, which is keeping the status quo, everything fair and balanced. But the North Node is kind of like the way out for the quarter. It's the learning curve. It says, be willing to dangle your toes off the edge of the cliff to see what lives there. What new vision is beckoning you?
Hmm. And with Chiron, would we think that this new vision might be in new healing modalities or new sources of healing for ourselves?
It could be, absolutely. It could be. And anytime Chiron and Mercury are together, it kind of gives a brilliance of mind, almost like a cosmic sense of things
Hmm.
beyond the ordinary thinking capacity
How long can we capitalize on that, Jyoti?
for the quarter.
For the quarter, okay.
Quarter. Yes, this is the birth chart of this new quarter. Yes. So you got 3 months.
Okay.
Okay. Venus and Saturn are together, squaring Pallas, the asteroid of intelligence, and it's kind of pushing. Do you trust what's important to you? Do you trust your own intelligence? Do you trust that you know what you know and you'll go to the bank on it?
Hmm.
Do you trust it enough to bring something forward? Your own intelligence, your own vision, your own ability to see the bigger picture. Can you trust it enough to make a stand?
Hmm. That's particularly interesting in combination with everything else that you've shared. So this Pluto bringing things up to heal, this clarity and kind of cutting edge ideas coming forth, and then do you trust it? Right.
Yeah. And do you
Wow.
trust yourself? It's like I find for myself, I find patterns of thinking coming up, and I think to myself, I don't want to think that way anymore.
Hmm.
It's old. It's done. I don't need to think that way anymore. I don't need to have those beliefs. They don't fit. I don't need to have those judgments. They don't work, And so I find myself kind of like between the old and whatever's coming down the pike,
Hmm.
and I don't have I have a clearer sense of what I don't want to engage in than I have of knowing exactly how it's going to look coming.
Sure.
You know, it's easy to think of what you don't want in lieu of what you do want sometimes, but I find myself in that place of um, really not wanting to respond in the same way to certain things that I've responded that way my whole life. And I find myself thinking, no, I want to do that differently. That doesn't
Mhm.
work for me anymore. I really, so that's the trust piece I feel. Venus and Saturn ready to lay some new foundations, ready to, but there's always trust when Venus and Saturn are together, but it's also um, laying some new foundations of thinking, of spiritual beliefs, of creative energies where you want to put them, with that little square to Palace off on the side saying, do I trust that this is the right path for me? or that I'm letting go of things that really don't work for me. So there's, that question, and that's part of the human condition.
Mhm. Mhm. But that question isn't all bad, right?
No,
It's just like it gives us reason to pause and
absolutely. And that's why it's part of the human condition, because we have to do that.
right, right.
I mean, you don't go with the same size clothes from birth to death. Things shift and change. I mean, it wasn't a great analogy, but um things shift and change, and so do our beliefs and our thinking process. And of necessity, it needs to happen that way.
Yeah.
We were given, we came in with things, we were given a role model, or a set of values and priorities by our parents, them thinking this is the best we can do for this kid, and then we go out into the world and we try them out and we see what works. And eventually we come to our own values and priorities that are most important to us, in deference to everything that came before.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this is another consciousness moment, another weeding out, another taking stock, of what seems to fit for right now. And this isn't, of course, the end all be all. We'll change it up as we go.
Sure.
Yeah. And Mars is squaring the planet Uranus in this chart, so change is inevitable. It's getting us kind of ready for the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in April. And Jupiter's getting closer to the planet Uranus. It's still about 6 degrees away. It's not exact till April 20th, which we'll talk about down the road, but there might be more luck available over these next several months, building toward April. Unexpected opportunities.
Hmm. I don't think anyone will complain about that, Jyoti.
I won't. Okay, so now I want to look at the full moon lunar eclipse. We are entering eclipse time, eclipse season. So on March 25th, at what is it, 1 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, we have this full moon eclipse. The sun is in Aries, the moon is in Libra. And the sun in Aries is conjuncting Neptune, which is conjuncting Venus and Saturn. So we have a whole bunch around the sun, a stellium around the sun. And then we have the moon in Libra. So there's a real concentration here of this balance between keeping the status quo and trying new things.
Hmm.
And wanting to see the truth of things. That sun 8-degree conjunction to Neptune, wanting to see the truth of things while we're trying to keep things in balance as we move forward. Still getting up, making breakfast,
Mhm.
doing what we do in the day, keeping our job, and yet trying some new things, new ways of doing things, new ideas about what our spiritual life might be about at this point in time. So Pluto is trining the moon. So between today and this eclipse, the aspect of Pluto opposing the moon is now Pluto trining the moon, or the moon trining Pluto. And so there's more of an ease and flow and depth that this eclipse is bringing to the table.
Okay.
Some things still might be coming up, but they're easier to deal with. It's more of an emotionally empowered time frame.
Okay. This might be how the squeeze eases, backs off a little bit, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I that's a good way of looking at it. Um, and remember that the eclipse is like a trigger point.
Yes.
3 to 6 months later, those energies show up. it's very rare for somebody to be off and running because they had an eclipse really close to their planets, on the day of the eclipse. It's usually 3 to 6 months later that the energies really show themselves. I think that there might be some relationship challenges going on with um, Saturn opposing Juno, the asteroid of relationship, but it's actually moving on. It's already been whatever it was going to be. I think it's a herald of, or maybe I wouldn't say a herald. Maybe it's a um, like peak moment, it's not the end of a moon cycle, it's the peak part, it's the full moon. We start out at the new moon, it's a new cycle, we build to the full moon. And so that's what this is. This is like saying, okay, we had an eclipse, two eclipses last fall, and so how are the choices you made then, or the things you set in motion then, how are they coming to fruition in some way?
Mm.
And then we'll meet this again in on October 2nd in the fall. There's a new moon eclipse in Libra, and so we're doing this dance with Aries and Libra right now. That keeping the status quo, relationship, cooperation, with the Aries energy of very individualistic, go off on your own, do it yourself, and dare the edges. So, how do you have both?
Yeah. But that sounds like a lot of the theme of not moving away from these polarities, that it's an and instead of this or this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's not an either or. It's showing you the either or,
Mhm.
but it really wants to be, and that will be the new moon eclipse in early April, the new moon total solar eclipse that's, coming down the east kind of mid-eastern part of the US. That will be the sun and moon together in Aries for a new moon of, new adventures, taking risks and chances, and uh, getting things off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, because with this Pluto in Aquarius, that is kind of a significator of where we are in our mass evolution, you could say. Um, that it's really challenging us, to cross a line almost, if you want, a line in the sand where we've been behind that line for a long time, and all of a sudden, Pluto's just kind of saying, well, it's time on a mass level because the earth is going through her own evolutionary crunch or evolutionary step forward. And so we are too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can't have one change and not the other.
Right,
Yeah.
right. The earth can't move on and we stand still. Yes. Yes. It's like fleas on a dog's back. The fleas have to go where the dog goes. Yes.
Yeah. So, Jyoti, I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about these two eclipses, and that points really to July and August and September, and so that should be a very interesting time period as well down the road.
Yes. Yeah, through the summer.
Yeah.
Through the summer. Yes, absolutely. Because then we come into the second part of the eclipse season. There's an eclipse in September and one in early October. So these eclipses are activating so many people and so many life situations that we need that 3 to 6 months to kind of come into it, make peace with it, and set the ball rolling.
Mhm. Yeah, I just think about with our lifestyles today and all the busyness and information coming in, things could come up for us in July and we not even relate it to the eclipse because the eclipse was so, in the past, I'm always thinking, maybe I need to write ahead in my calendar, check in here.
Yes, yes, yes. It's very interesting how things work. Almost to the day sometimes of an eclipse 3 months later,
Yeah,
3 months after it. It's uncanny sometimes how all of a sudden there it is.
yeah, but I think it's worth making a note in your diary ahead or something if you're a note taker like I am.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And just having that uh early warning almost, or heads up, or
Yeah,
yeah, pay attention here at this time, because you might find yourself reflecting back to this time.
sure.
Yeah.
Anything else to share, Jyoti?
I think that's pretty much it. I think this is going to be quite enough.
Yeah, there were a lot of themes.
Yeah. Yeah, and each of these are powerhouses. It's not just a new moon. It's not just a full moon. It's the beginning of a quarter of the year, and it's also a full moon eclipse. So, yeah, these are both pretty important, and maybe stronger acting or deeper filled charts.
Yeah. Well, great. Jyoti, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Lauren. Thank you.